So as you can tell from that series of images, I moved. I've also been thankfully busy up till now. And then all the things that come along with moving, getting the house dialed in. Now I'm here and the city is super quiet. It's very eerie, and honestly I feel a little selfish even being out here and doing a video like this, but I wanted to document it. So I'm gonna pick the videos back up now in this strange time, try to strike a tone that is productive and helpful. You know, I guess we all just have to do what we can to get through this very bizarre moment in history. Who knows where we're going to come out on the other side, but there are some silver linings to it, to what we're going through, and I'm going to try to explore some of those and just try to be productive with how, you know, I go about this time. So I had done a series of interviews. There is still some traffic on this bridge. I had done a series of interviews in the fall, and there was one that I had neglected to finish off, and that's with my friend Fritz Doddy. So I'm gonna do that one today, and then we'll pick it up from there and see where it goes. But yeah, I hope you're hanging in there and staying mentally healthy, physically healthy, enjoying your family and doing whatever work you can. It's gonna be very fascinating to see how this whole thing plays out. Hang in there. All right. So I'm here with Fritz Doddy, the composer. I would say during the meat of my career, when I was doing commercials, if I were honest with myself, I would probably say I achieved a B or B plus level status of success. Fritz was always the man, and I knew about him for a long time, working in New York at Elias Music. Always really respected the music you were making. So we met each other a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Why don't we start? Can you just talk about how you got into this? I know you had come from a musical family.
I come from a musical family. My grandfather was a band leader in the 30s. My father, still alive, can't play anymore. He's a brilliant accordionist. Just
oh wow. Both hands flying.
Yeah, just he could improv entire fully thought out songs. Just a brilliant mind. So music was always in the family. My father would arrange barbershop for me and my 3 older brothers, so we would sing barbershop together.
Wow.
With a lot of beer. At a certain point, it became apparent that I needed to move to New York. My wife dragged me into New York, kicking and screaming, because you're a musician, you need to go to New York.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in rural western Jersey.
Okay.
On the west coast of New Jersey.
Okay, right.
On the Delaware River. After being, paying the dues and slogging it out in the trenches, I got a gig at Elias, working for Jonathan, working on his publishing catalog. I didn't have any experience doing ads. So I worked on his publishing catalog. He had produced a couple albums for Grace Jones and Yes, Duran Duran, I think. So he hired me as his musical guy Friday. Okay. So I would handle putting songs together, doing live sessions, things of that nature. Yeah. And I did that for about 1.5 years, I guess. And at one point during a particularly busy period, they said, "Hey Fritz, you want to take a shot at writing an ad?" And then 24 years shot by.
Wow.
Just like that.
You got on the train and
I just wrote it out.
Wow. How long has it been since you've kind of been working on your own?
A little over 4 years.
Okay. So when we first met, we were talking because you're kind of on a similar trajectory in terms of figuring out a new new way to work on your own and a mix of different projects. So
Yes.
some library things. Have you done any long form scoring in that time? Or?
I've done a little bit. Did a really awful movie while I was at Elias. Did a documentary in the past couple of years, a dance documentary. That was it wasn't really scoring per se. I was writing commission pieces to dance that was filmed in a studio. So
Okay.
it was kind of an odd project in that they had already choreographed the dance and danced to a temp track, and it was my job to.
Oh, you had to fit something in so that it fit their template.
Yeah, and to tempo. you
Yeah.
know, so it was that. So they were completely different pieces, but just really lining it up, and so it's kind of scoring the picture, but
Yeah. Right.
they were longer pieces, 5, 6, 7 minute cues,
Uh-huh.
but not traditional cinematic scoring like
Okay.
TV or.
Right. So is your main instrument guitar or?
Well, I went to school as a piano major, which was a laugh because
Okay.
I took piano lessons for forever as a kid,
Uh-huh.
and I was a piano major at school. My prof at school said, "You're not really a keyboard player or a piano player." I'm like, "No, not really." So I got all the easy stuff to play.
Yeah.
I guess really, if someone said you got to play in a band, it would be electric bass.
Okay.
So
I saw you have a lot of basses, I think.
a lot of
Fair
basses. I'm that classic multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah.
I play reasonable keyboard. I played keyboards in bands. I played guitar in bands.
I know because in the music that I'm familiar with that you've done, you do a great job of melding orchestral instruments, guitars, and it sounds cohesive, but there's always that kind of upfront guitar thing going on, I've noticed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But yeah, it gives it a very organic quality that it's impressive. All right, so this is kind of a philosophical question, which is the whole idea of having your own voice as a musician. And it's kind of ridiculous because in one sense, you kind of have no choice, right? I mean, you are who you are.
Yeah.
I guess my point is you have a very identifiable style through your music, and your personality really comes through. Like, listening to a lot of your music, I can imagine you sitting in your room, like, jamming out on it.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. My family just, when they see it, they did snicker and laugh.
Yeah.
What the hell's he doing?
Yeah. But that really comes through, and that helps give your music a unique sound. So it comes through. How have you balanced? It sounds like in the meat of your career, you were just like hanging on for dear life and producing like crazy and busy.
Yeah.
And are you now having to be more creative and focus on the business side of things as well?
Well, as being self-employed, you have to focus on the business side of things. So yeah, it's I have no choice in the matter. So I embrace it as best I can. So my approach to doing that is the same that I approach music with. So I'm just going to be who I am.
Right.
Honest, upfront, authentic, and not try and be everything to all people. Like, obviously doing the commercial work, you have to be everything to all people.
Right.
You have to, in those days, in the meat of it, you're writing, a lot of different styles. You have to learn a lot of different styles. You have the opportunity to do research, and now I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I still push myself in both creatively and in business. So I'm still kind of finding my way business-wise. Mm-hmm. But I found the more that I can be authentic in a business sense, the more successful I am.
Yeah.
So I'm not buttoned up. I joke a lot. I try and be provocative
Mm-hmm.
with business dealings and cold calling and meeting people, things of that nature. I've turned down work that I know people can do better than me.
Mm-hmm.
There's just stuff that a lot of the youngsters will go after it.
Right.
I'm gonna go after video games. I'm gonna go after trailers. I'm like, great.
Do you still do some creative directing and help develop briefs and do that side of it at all for people?
Absolutely. I do a lot of work as an audio branding specialist. So I get hired as a creative director, and a lot of that is developing briefs. But it's a lot more interesting now because I'm dealing more with corporate clients.
Yeah.
Corporations are so different than their agency partners. So
How would you characterize the difference?
open-minded,
Okay.
a lot more open-minded, willing to give you the benefit of the doubt as a professional,
Mm-hmm.
willing to learn, willing to throw away cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
There's still so much cynicism dealing with agency partners.
So one of the things I struggle with frequently in my music is, you have some situations where you're writing a piece of music, maybe it's usually to a brief, and you're sending it off into the world, and it either lives and carries on or it dies. Whereas there are other situations where you're working with a creative more directly, and it's more of a back and forth process, and you try some things and they might key off of a particular element, and then you follow that wherever it leads you. Have you had success working both ways? Is that a difference that makes sense to you? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I have less success writing a piece of music and
yeah,
putting it out
Same.
into the ether.
Yeah.
Because it's whispered down the lane.
Right.
There's the advertiser, and they talk with their account people, talk with
Right.
the agencies, and so on and so on and so forth. And by the time it gets to you, what's in the heart of the advertiser, what is the piece of music in their brain, it's probably not what you're creating.
And I feel like a lot of what you probably bring to the table, having the mindset of knowing how to be a creative director, prepare a brief, is the back and forth and teasing out of whoever it is you're working with what it really should be, which is a process a lot of times.
It is a process. It's about managing and setting expectations along the way.
Yeah.
It's finding out who the people are. I always tell people, music is a same side of the table negotiation. We're not facing off.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting here and I'm playing therapist.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So you figure out who they are, what kind of day they're having, what are we trying to accomplish, and deliver things in little bits and pieces. So
Right.
you start to get some information, develop some trust,
Right.
bring them along on the journey. So by the time you put original music in front of them, they go, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're invested
Yeah.
at that point, and they feel like they've helped, and they have helped create
Of
this
course.
thing. You do a lot of your own. You've released your own music as well as albums,
Yeah.
right? And what's usually the motivation when you set out to do one of those? Is it the sort of thing where you envision a project, or have you just written songs and you're like, I want to put these songs into, release them, sort of thing?
Sometimes most of the time it's a ready, fire, aim kind of thing.
Okay.
So I'll just start generating something, writing
Okay.
something, and putting things together, chords, melodies, textures, and all of a sudden I have something, and more often than not, I don't even remember how I got there.
Mhm.
So it's like it's done, and I go, okay, that's sort of my process for personal music. The other side of it is that what I want to get out of it is making myself emotional. Like if I can write a piece of music
Mm-hmm.
that makes me emotional
Mhm.
as I'm in it, going, wow, what just happened?
Yeah.
Then I'm successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear some people say they do a piece of music and never want to hear it again, and I'm not sitting around listening to my music all the time, but I definitely want to feel that emotion when I'm creating it.
Yeah. I'll listen to stuff that I've done all the time. I'm proud of, I'm proud of the work that is successful. I always tell young composers, you have to be your own greatest cheerleader and your own worst critic. You have to listen to something and go, man, I just didn't have it. That piece sucked. And on the same side, you have to listen to it and go, God damn it, I wrote something beautiful.
Yeah. Can you look back at well, I'll speak for myself. I can look back at periods of my career, like there was a stretch between 2013 and 2014 where I was just creatively lost. It was not happening. And then, interestingly, from 2014 to 2015 is when it's kind of when I discovered the modular synth hole, and that like reinvigorated I kind of found my voice again through that.
I would say for me the stagnant time was between 1990 and 2000.
The grunge era was not a good one for you.
I read an interesting article once. There's two basic types of creative. There's the innovators, and then there are the experimenters. So I finally realized, after telling people, for so many years, I'm a late bloomer. I've always been a late bloomer. That really what I am is an experimenter. So I'm not an innovator. I'm not David Bowie, who comes out, at age 18 and burns it up, or divine like Mozart or Bach. For me it takes time.
Yeah.
So that's. So for me, I always look at it as the best work is always in front of me.
So that's back to the whole idea of working to a brief as well. Is there are situations where you kind of have a vision in your head of what you want this piece to be. Maybe it's because you're working to a brief, or maybe it's your own music, and you kind of can hear it in your head. And then there are other times when you just, like you were saying before, you just have a vague notion, but you just set off down the road, you experiment, you throw things against the wall and see where it leads you. Sounds like you enjoy the latter quite a lot.
It depends. For commercial work,
it's hard to do for commercial.
Yeah, work. But I've been, when I was most successful at commercial work was when I would go off brief. So I would get a brief and I would look at it and read it. And there's all this, great left brain stuff.
Yeah.
Do this, don't do that. The client hates organ.
No hand claps. Love pizzicato strings.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And so I would often write a piece that conforms to that brief with as much heart and soul as I could. And then I would often write another one that was just a different point of view. So here's another way to think about it. Here's another way to score this. Here's another way to tell a story.
Right. Because it's amazing how obviously it can totally change the point of view of a picture or a commercial, or whether you're pushing or pulling the energy of it. That's why I hate composing to just a board-o-matic, because the feeling the pacing, and it's really hard. It's nearly impossible for me.
No doubt.
Do you think at all, when you're creating music, I tend to get I'm not good at putting myself in the listener's shoes. I mean, obviously, that's a big part of what we do, and I think about it, but I tend to get lost in it's like you've walked into this room that is the piece of music you're working on, and you're, getting all fascinated with the little details, the pictures on the wall.
Sure.
And it's hard for me to step back and picture it as someone who's going to walk into that room for the first time. Do you think about that at all? Like how the listener is going to hear it?
Absolutely. And that's another reason why I don't do as much, quick turnaround commercial music, 30s, 60s, because you don't have that opportunity to be objective. So for library work, or when I have an opportunity to stretch it over a number of days, I'll write something and get it fairly fleshed out, and then just put it aside. Go to sleep, wake up the next day, and put my creative director hat on, and go, okay, this works, or time to rethink.
Yeah.
I am pretty good at that, just because, like I said, I'm my own worst critic.
Yeah.
From that standpoint. And then I usually divide it up into left brain and right brain. That's kind of how I really go about it. Okay, technically, what's happening? Am I sonically and from a palette standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint accomplishing what needs to be accomplished? And am I emotionally telling the story at a pace that makes sense to the picture, if I'm working the picture?
Yeah. Speaking of space, I assume you do your own engineering and you love that side of things.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
What are some of your favorite reverbs? Because the reverbs you use are really nice. I've noticed the space is very vivid.
Well, I'm relegated to plugins like everybody else, but oftentimes what I'll do is really love the Valhalla stuff, and I like the Factory Pro verb in Digital Performer. It's a convolution reverb.
Okay.
This is very natural.
Okay.
Really natural sound to it. I have a few convolution reverbs in live that I made of my old studio space.
Wow.
So that had a really nice sound to it. So every once in a while I'll pull that out and bring something into live and dump it into my old studio, which works nice. Oftentimes, though, what I'll do with reverbs. Oh, I also like the little plate by Sound Toys.
Yeah, I like them.
What I'll do is I'll put things in chains. So with reverbs, I'll put it through a stereo widener, or I'll throw some motion into it by putting either a pattern gate or a.
I think I noticed some of that. Like it felt like things were kind of doing this a little bit.
Yeah. So it's pushing it around. Gating.
Yeah.
There's gating things in. Oftentimes with super long shimmer reverbs, I'll render each chord, like if I have a big string chord or a piano chord, I'll render the reverb on each chord so it doesn't bleed into the next chord. So you have this sense of expanse, but when it hits the next chord,
interesting.
It there's no bleed over, so you don't have that chaos,
I like
that mush.
Yeah.
It's time consuming.
Yeah. I know. I read a couple of you did the series of blogs in the trenches or something.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you do the like adding a pulse to the reverb tail, which I do all the time. Like put LFO tool on the reverb, so it's kind of pumping.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a fun one. I know it's different for where every person is in their career, but how do you view the music? Like, what challenges are you facing as a composer trying to figure out your career, this next stage of your career? You're doing a lot of library work. Do you enjoy that?
I love the library work for the same reason that we had talked about. You're working for the person who's buying the music and is selling or licensing the music.
Right.
So it's really my best work.
Do they help? Do they often come to you with an idea for a concept for the album, or are you kind of approaching them like the one you did with the prepared piano and things? Was that an idea you had that you approached them with? Or?
That just came out of a conversation. I was talking with the creative director on that project about different guitar tunings and how to prepare guitars, because I would always prepare my guitars in different fashions. Like like you prepare your piano with aluminum. I would do the same thing with guitars and cotton mutes and all that kind of stuff in different articulations. And then he, out of the blue, he just said, "Well, how about a prepared piano album?" And I went, "Okay, well, let me run with it." So, and other times I'll pitch an idea. I'll pitch an idea that has an emotional base to it. I want to do an album about the human condition.
Yeah, I listened to some of that one.
And I'll do other ones where we'll collaborate on something. People come to me with ideas. I'm doing one now that is a blast, and it's really stretching me. It's a loosely authentic vintage disco.
Whoa.
So I went, okay, here's a head turner.
Wow,
And they
that
said,
sounds fun.
They said they really want you to get into it. So I've been listening to all the stuff that I love from that period.
Yeah.
And nonstop, and writing things that are just, it's hard. And I get
some
to
of
use
the
live
more
players.
like MacArthur Park type stuff too, like the out there, or more of the stripped down basic disco.
All of it.
Okay.
I'm trying to hit a bunch of different things. Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
Chic, ABBA, Wild Cherry, play that funky music,
Yeah.
Wet Boy,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it's a blast, and it's a side of me that most people don't know, but it's always been there.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of fun.
I had a piano teacher. She used to play with Henry Mancini, and she must have had perfect pitch or very good relative pitch. And I was going to play in a talent show. I think it was the song MacArthur Park. Someone left the cake out in the rain. Okay.
What a brilliant song.
And
Jesus.
it's kind of a complicated song.
Yeah.
And so I told her I was going to, they asked me to play in this college talent show thing in a band. She said, "Oh, let's put it on," and she put it on a record player, got her sheet music out, and as it played, she just wrote out all the chord changes, without touching the piano. That was the first time I'd seen anyone do anything like that. I was blown. Do you have that capability to hear it and transcribe it?
I'm pretty good. There are days that are better than others, but I'm pretty good. I have my father's ear.
That's a nice skill to have.
This is a funny story. I used to do gigs with my father, and they would play standards, popular music from the 30s and 40s. So all that stuff is not all of it's 1-4-5.
Right.
It runs through changes and augmented and diminished chords and all that kind of stuff. And I was playing. My uncle was playing bass, so I was relegated to playing rhythm guitar. So just chords. So there was chord charts for a lot of it, but there was a lot of stuff that didn't have chord charts. So my father had a code that he would use, and he would say, "Okay, this song we don't have a chord chart for, so we're going to play it through one time, and I'll shout out the changes for you, but you have to memorize it because the next time around I got to go up and sing." so he would play these things and shout it out, shout out the chords, and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm getting that, going through 2 5s and whatever," and then the second time you would go around, I would have to memorize it. So the more that we did this, the more.
That's a great just skill to have learned. I mean.
And at one point when I went into Elias to interview with Jonathan Elias, he took me into this little piano room. He says, "Okay, I have a homework assignment for you." He said, I'm going to play something for you, and I want you to go home and arrange it in the style of Peter Gabriel. So he sat down at the piano and he played this song once, all the way through, and as it was happening, I was going, "Oh my God, my father's training is all coming back to me." So I just sat there and I was smiling because I memorized the entire thing. Sat down real quick and replayed it, and then I got outside and I called my father immediately. I said, "Daddy, you won't believe what just happened." And
wow.
I told him the story, and I came back a week later or something with the sketch, and he listened to it once. He said, "You're hired."
Wow. Now, Jonathan, did he get a big boost in his career from doing the Alien trailer?
Yes.
Okay. And was that before or after you had started working for him?
That was before.
Okay. Because I didn't know he was doing all the record production as well.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was part of his background.
And that was sort of why he hired me, because I was in the New York band scene. I was co-owner of a little studio, and we recorded everybody and anybody, and
wow.
played on just thousands of demos.
Wow.
And engineered a lot of albums, little indie albums, things like that.
Wow. So we're here. for this Spitfire, one of my friends called it a march, which I thought was funny, like where composers were going to go protest something about our working conditions. Like, we're not going to compose in C sharp minor anymore. But it's kind of a crazy thing. It's cool that he's got this community together, though.
Yeah. It reminds me of, at one point when I was working at Elias, one of the other composers wrote a piece of music, and it was, fleshed out and orchestrated, and I didn't have anything to do with it, except that he couldn't be in work that day, or something, and I was going to engineer it. And it was written in C sharp major.
Yeah.
Then all the players are like,
is that,
why?
They're all sharp, right?
Yeah. Why? Why couldn't he just... I'm just the engineer. Just the engineer.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure.
And interesting to hear your story a little bit. And I guess we're gonna go and walk across the Brooklyn Bridge.
We're gonna march. Maybe we'll improvise something and sing along the way.
Yeah. You should go get an accordion.
I have my father's accordion.
Yeah. You should. Yeah. Missed opportunity.
Yeah. So I was actually talking to my dad a couple of weeks ago because he can't play anymore, and he gave me his accordion. And I said, Dad, I have this idea, because I'm not going to put on this strap on the accordion and learn how to play it, because it's heavy, and you have to have the whole thing. So I told him, I said, I know a guy who works on pedal pump organs. So,
oh, wow.
So I said, what if I take the accordion and break it apart? So there's the key side and the button side, and build an air chamber for the back.
Wow.
And turn it into a pedal pump system, so I can play the accordion and the buttons, but not have to go like this. And he says, go for it.
You think you'll do it?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, if you think a Les Paul is heavy, you should try strapping an accordion on. Those things are really heavy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good show. Talking
just like I picture it.
Side chains, skyscrapers.